Hello, thanks for tuning in. My name is Yap. I'm going to do a whole new series of streams now under the title Adults in Context. Effectively, that's what we are. We're adults in context. Each and every one of us has a contextual window that we look at the world through. And when you consider all of our windows in one big mesh, in one big bed, all thrown in together, that makes up one gigantic contextual ocean of thought that we're all swimming in on this day. So yeah, we're all wired to the network that makes up a single contextual ocean of thought. And that ocean is filled with a lot of negative thought and a lot of positive thought, and that's part of our contextual framework on this day. Incidentally, I hate all the labels like anarchist and socialist, and I use some of those labels myself, but they actually muddy the water when you get into it. All those labels: postmodernist, existentialist, feminist, left-wing, right-wing. For the record, I'm not left-wing or right-wing. I like to think of myself as the whole bird flying forward out of the darkness and with a bit of a broken wing, given the circumstances of evolution, given the circumstances of, this existential hole that we were all thrown into the day we were born. We're all doing our best given the circumstances of life, as I said, so we're all birds flying forward out of the dark with a bit of a broken wing. Anyway, that's the context that I'm trying to relay. So yes, it's not any one person's fault, all the problems in the world. The problem itself is with the network. We're not wired correctly to the correct network. We're not wired to the right path, and that would suggest there is a path of righteousness. But how do we find a path of righteousness? Is there a right path? And if there is a right path, as I have said, there is a path of righteousness, okay? And we're all on the path of righteousness by degree, when you think about it, okay? We're all about love, and even if we falter at times, when we're about love, when we're acting in a loving way, we are on the path of righteousness. Okay, when we see each other through the lens of equality, if equality is part of your contextual mindset, well, that is part of the path of righteousness. Okay, so in respect to that, there is a path of righteousness, but we've walked off it in so many different ways. We've walked off it, and it's all by degrees, but the degrees have led to Holocaust. People have walked off the path of righteousness in racist ways, in class ways, in monarchical ways, in religious ways, and so on, in homophobic ways, in demeaning ways, and so on. We've looked down on people, we've spat on people, vilified people, shot people because we were afraid of them. We shot people to control their lands, and so on. We've enslaved people. That's part of our contextual framework. That's part of the contextual ocean that we're all swimming on this day. I mean, let's just get into the context itself. There's a lot of good in there, but right now I just want to address some of the dark shadows. If you think about how many lies are being told in the world on this day, how many little small micro lies are being told, because 1 billion small micro lies add up to a gigantic macro problem, okay? And all the problems of the world break down to micro problems and if you group them all together, they add up to macro problems, okay? So like 1 billion negative actions, 1 billion micro negative actions taking place on every stream, in every office, and on every street, I should say, in every office, in every home, in every school, in every church. All of those little micro negative actions sure do make up one big, gigantic negative framework that's pulling us all down. There's a weight to it. There's a gravity to lies, okay? There's a gravity to all lies. There's a gravity that seriously pulls us down. And so, we're all trying to walk the right path. We're all trying to walk with honor and dignity, but there are so many variables on the path. There are so many variables. There's so many variables. There's so much toxins in the ocean, the contextual ocean, and it permeates, it's insidious, it gets into us, it gets into our spirit, it wears us down, and so on, and so on, and so on. So anyway, yes, so that's part of our context. So we have to change the context. That's why I want to address it as adults in context. I'm just an adult. If you're a Nazi, that's part of your context. Okay, if you're a bit of a snob, that's part of your context. If you're a racist, that's part of your contextual framework, okay? But, if we want to fix the world, we have to just get into the network. We have to get into the network of thought, and part of the network of thought has to do with our language, the narrative that we govern ourselves by. And narratives can be so negative, okay? Narratives of oppression, the narratives that carry oppression are negative. It's all bad language, okay? If you're interested in bad language, you should tune in here, because bad language has nothing to do with the word fuck off or shit or piss, okay? Bad language, you need to get into the structures of language to understand bad language. Anything that supports the monarchy is built on bad language structures, okay? Anyone that, supports a false ideology, their mind is skewed, is twisted around the wrong language set, and so on. So we need to change the narrative. So as I roll, as I go along, as I flow, as I stream, if you tune in, one of my intentions is to actually help you change the narrative. Okay, we have to move forward and we have to rise into a transcendental narrative. We have to change it. Our minds have to become transcendental. Our minds are actually transcendental. We just have to wake up to that fact. We need to transcend the animal side of our nature. We need to transcend the monkey brain, something else I'm going to talk about as we flow. So many issues to talk about. So many issues to talk about. Anyway, adults in context. So yeah, we have to transcend. We have to transcend our old animal nature. We have to leave this old schizophrenic paradigm of thought behind, and that involves, like I said, changing the entire narrative. And this is part of the narrative, to address what narratives are, to address the normalization of negative narratives. Normalization, something else I want to discuss as we go along, and how negative normalization can be. The normalization of keeping a woman in her place. Okay, normalization can be toxic. The normalization of slavery, normalization is toxic. The normalization of the white Aryan race, toxic. The normalization of the class system, toxic, and so on. And that's all part of today's narrative. That's all. The capitalist narrative is a corrupt narrative. It's all about greed is good. Get the house and the cars and the wife and the diamonds and the money, and you have made it to the top of the mountain. That's part of the narrative. That corrupt, dirty, vulgar, arrogant narrative. Okay, so it's toxic. It's toxic. So we need to change the narrative. We need to transcend the old narrative and become a transcendental framework. We need to change our minds into a transcendental framework, and we need to look through a transcendental window, more to the point. So yes, anyway, so hopefully you get the point. Yeah, so if you'd like to, I'm going to put these up on YouTube, and if you'd like to ask me any questions, just please write a question, and I will endeavour to answer it to the best of my ability. But more to the point, I would like you to come down and bring your context to me. You come down here and bring your window to me, so I can look through your window and you can look through my window, and so we can just be adults in context together, and we can help refine one another. Okay, we can help refine one another and grow and just move forward and help other people if they tune in and so on, because we're all wanting something bigger, we're all wanting something better, we're all wanting something more majestic. We deserve it. We're the human species. We deserve something majestic because we are majestic beings. We've just lost sight of ourselves. So yeah, the fact that we're majestic, you know, is part of our contextual ocean, but the waters are muddied so much. You know, if 1 billion people are throwing rubbish in the oceans, then the oceans are rubbish for everyone. Okay, the oceans are dirty for everyone, I should say. So if 1 billion people are lying every day and living a lie and promoting a lie and denying the lie and so on, well, then we're all caught up in that lie. We're all caught up in that dirty ocean. It's hard to swim through it. It's hard to find balance. Like I said, it wears down the spirit. There's a gravity to negativity. There's a gravity to negativity. But there's an uplifting cloud underneath positivity. Okay, so we have to re-engage with all positive frameworks of thought and let that become the transcendental contextual window that we all look through. And you know, I guarantee we'll find more air and oxygen and a better day in that. So anyway, thank you for tuning in. Peace and love and logic.